Okay, so we're going to start the instructional videos for the miniature train project. What I have open here on the screen is going to be posted on Classroom. This is the document that has all of the dimensions and the drawings for the miniature train. The way we're going to make this is we're going to make all of the parts first. We're going to start out with the train body, as you see here at the top, and we need to be able to reference this document in order for us to have the dimensions to properly make it. So here is the train body. This is the isometric view with a portion of the measurements, and if you scroll down here, you can see the back of the train. Now, the way we're going to make this train is we cannot make it from the side to the side. We're going to make it from the back to the front. So what we're originally going to sketch out on Inventor is this right here, okay? So we're going to go to Inventor. You are going to go in. You're going to create a new standard IPT file. You're going to open that file up. And then we are going to start a 2D sketch on the XY plane. We're going to use the XY plane for all of the parts for the train project. Now, when we start this, we want to make sure that we have our first click on the origin. Okay, but I want to go back here and reference the print so you can see the dimensions first. So what we want to do is we want to sketch out, this will be our first click in the bottom left-hand corner. This will be on the origin. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a horizontal line, and we're going to make these two vertical lines, because when we make this arc here, that's going to be a circle that comes off of the center of this hole. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to dimension, or we want to make two lines, or three lines, one horizontal, two vertical. So when we go back to Inventor, you want to make a line coming off the origin. This is the bottom line. And then we're going to have one that comes here, and another one that comes here. And we want to go back and look at our print, and the overall width of this is going to be, as you can see right here, from here to here is going to be 2 inches. So when we go back on Inventor, we want to make this line 2 inches. Okay? Then we want to go back to our print, and you want to look at this little hole here. Okay? We're going to just put a point there. We're not going to make the hole yet until after we extrude this portion of it. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to make a point that is 0.375 from the bottom and an inch off of either edge because it's centered. So take a point, put that point, if you see those perforated lines, that'll put it directly in the center, but we want to give it a dimension anyways. So we're going to dimension this point from one of the edges at 1 inch, and then off of the bottom edge, 0.375. Now, when we go back here, when we do circles, the circles are dimensioned in diameter, not radius, okay? But the radius of this circle would be from this point to this edge would be the radius of 0.235. 0.235 times 2 is going to give us that diameter. So what we want to do is we want to start a circle right on that little point that we created, and we want to make this 2.35 times 2 gives us a 4.7 diameter, but the radius of this from this center point from here to here is going to be 2.35. Okay? Now what I want to do is these two little lines here, we never gave those dimensions, but if we extend those lines, go to extend, this line's going to extend all the way up where it attaches to that arc. okay? Then we want to trim the rest of this. Now, this sketch here gives us this full sketch, okay? Now we want to figure out how far our extrusion is. Our extrusion is going to be from this point to this point. It doesn't show that here. It shows it up here, though. From right here, this edge, to this edge is 1 inch. So we want to make our extrusion 1 inch. So you want to go back to Inventor, and then we want to extrude. Notice how the whole sketch is blue. If your whole sketch is not blue, that's not good. You did something wrong. Okay, so now we have 1 inch. Actually, hang on a second. I think I made a mistake. Let's go back to this. The 1 inch is to this hole. I made a mistake. So from here to here is 1.75 inches. So we want to go and make this. If I double click on my extrusion, I can make this 1.75. Okay, now that's correct. Now what we want to do is we want to go from this face here, and we want to make this. We want to sketch this out on that face, and we want to make that extrusion, and that will give us the full body without any of the holes. Okay, so we're gonna extrude out the full extrusion of the full body, and then we're going to go back and we're going to add all of the holes. So we want to create a 2D sketch on either side. Doesn't matter, because they're both the same thing on the same side. And we want to sketch out this space. Okay, so when we look at our print, between this arrow here and this arrow here, we want to have a line that goes from here to here that's 0.875, and a line that goes from here to here that's 0.875, and then this bottom line is automatically going to be 2 inches because that's the width of the overall train. So we want to take a line that goes from here to here, from here to here, and here to here. Then, when we dimension this line, we want to go 0.8875. Now, we can just use the equal command. We want to use geometric constraints as much as we possibly can. We can just make this equal to that. Actually, that's not going to work because we have to define the points, so we can't use equal for that one. So we are going to go from here to here and make this 0.875. Now we have the bottom portion of it. Now we have to put the circle in the middle, and then we have to add a couple lines here, and we're going to have to trim off this bottom piece, kind of just like we did with this circle up here. So when we go back to our print, we want to make this circle. It shows that these extension lines coming out have dimension lines that go from the center of this circle 1.375, and we have a radius of 0.75 circle, which means we're going to make the diameter of that circle 1.5. So I want to make a circle, and we can just throw this guy in here because we're going to have to dimension it anyways. So from the center of this circle, we want to center it. Overall width was 2, so centering it is going to be 1. And then we want to go from the bottom edge at 1.375. Okay, and this dimension here gave us a radius of 0.75, which gives us a diameter of 1.5. Now, all we have to do is take lines. It doesn't show us what the dimensions of these lines are on the print. We just want to connect that line and connect this line. And we want to trim this bottom line out. Now, when we go back and we look, just to double check and make sure everything is okay here, from the center of that circle is 1.375. We had a diameter of 1.5 coming off of this radius of 0.75, and then these two lines don't have any dimensions to them, and we trim this bottom part out. Everything looks good. So If yours is not blue, you did something wrong. The whole thing should be blue here. So you want to finish, and before we did 1.75, this extrusion from here to here was 1.75. So my new extrusion is going to be the overall. We can just do the overall. We can do 5.5, and if we subtract 1.75, it's going to give us the proper dimension for this. So when we go back here, we want to finish, extrude 5.5 minus 1.75. That gives us the rest of the body, and that's what it looks like. So we now have the body without any of the holes. Let's start with this back portion here, okay? When we look at this, we want to create this, okay? But notice, if I make this a little bit bigger, these lines here are straight. They don't arc down. So what we want to do is we're going to have to create a circle, and then we're going to have to make lines that are tangent to that circle that make a flat surface so it's not curving down, okay? Our circle is going to have a diameter of 1 inch. Here it gives us the radius, but inventor dimensions and diameter. And the location of the center point of that circle is 1/4 of an inch off of the back and 1.75 inches from the bottom. So we want to go back to inventor, and we want to create a 2D sketch on this face. Either side would be fine. And we want to take a circle, and we want to make this circle dimension, give it a radius of 1, and we want to dimension from here to the bottom at 1.75, and from here to this outside edge, from the center to the outside edge at 0.25. Okay, now this is what I was talking about before. We want to have a line that extends straight from here. So we want to put a line that goes from here to here, and a line that goes from here to here. Now, we want to make sure these lines are tangent. They may already be, but we want to double check. Okay, see, that made it blue. We gave it the geometric tangent constraint from here to here, and that made those lines tangent. Now there's one more thing that we have to do. We have to, actually 2 more things. We have to trim this out, and this out, and we need to make a line from here to here, because that will give us a fully enclosed sketch. So that whole thing should be blue. Okay, if yours is not blue, you did something wrong. When you finish this sketch, we're going to extrude this guy. We want to go this way, and we want to make the distance all of it. That way, if I were ever to change the overall width or anything of the body of my train, if I change the width of the body, my extrusion would go all the way through all the time, no matter what I did to alter the part. So now what we have is, we have everything done except for these 2 holes, and there's 2 on the opposite side. But what we're going to do is we're going to make these 2, and we're just going to mirror those over a plane. You'll see that here in a second. And then we have to do these 3. And once we do those 3, we have to do this one on top. So let's start with this one on top. The only way that we can make a sketch on this rounded surface is to put a plane on top of this surface, because I can't select this. See, if I try to create a 2D sketch and I try to select the top of this, it won't let me. It will only let me select flat surfaces. So for me to make a flat surface, I want to go to plane, and the one that's going to work the best for us is tangent to a surface and parallel to a plane. So I want it tangent to that surface, and then it automatically popped up. If yours doesn't, go ahead and select the bottom, and when you select the bottom, it puts that plane tangent to this spherical edge here and parallel to the bottom of this part. So now that I have that plane there, I can make a sketch on this plane. You got to pick the corner to select a plane. And then I can sketch on this surface. And what we want to sketch is, we want to sketch a circle that has a diameter of 0.5 and a depth of 0.25, and it's going to be centered on this edge, so it's going to be 1 inch from this edge, and from the front it's going to be 0.875, as our extension lines show with our dimension lines, that this distance here from the center to this front face is 0.875. So when I go back on here, for me to be able to know where these edges are, I can't see these edges or reference these edges unless I project geometry. So when you use planes, you have to project geometry. I project geometry of this front edge. That gives me this yellow line. Then I can use that as a construction line to find that center hole. And I also want to project one of the outside edges. So when I put this circle on here, I can dimension from this outside edge to the center of the circle at 1 inch. Okay? And from this center to this edge at 0.875. Now, when we finish this, we want to make sure that our hole goes in. Okay? We want to make sure that it goes in. We're going in. And we want to make sure that we're cutting material away, because currently we are joining material. If you join material, it's just going to show you a little area that comes up, and that's not making a hole. So we want to make a hole. We want to make sure we're going this way. We want to change this to 0.25. But I made a mistake. Go ahead and do that, but then we're going to have to go back, which is fine. You're going to have to learn how to do this with parts anyways. If I highlight over this, it shows us where that circle was. I can double click on that sketch. The one thing I forgot to do was I did not give it the diameter of this. This was supposed to be 0.5. Then when I finish, my hole shrinks up. Okay, so whenever you want to alter a sketch, we're not going to go back here and create a new 2D sketch and put another sketch on top. We're going to go back inside of that extrusion, and if you highlight over your extrusions, it shows you where those extrusions were, and then you can go inside there and you can go alter any sketch, so you can change parts whenever they need to be changed. So now what we want to do is we want to add 2 holes on the side of this guy here. When you use the hole command wants you to tell it 2 reference edges. So we're going to use this edge and this edge for this center hole. And what this says is 1/4 inch, 20 UNC. The depth is 0.875, and it has this ×4 here because there are 4 holes. There are 2 on this side, and on the other side you cannot see them, but there are 2 more over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these 2 holes here, and then I'm going to put a plane vertically through the center of the body, and then I can just mirror those holes over that plane, and I don't have to do it again. So my reference edges are going to be, if the full length of the train is 5.5 and to the center of this hole is 4.5, from this front edge that hole is 1 inch. And if I look over here, it's 0.5 or 1/2 inch from the bottom. So when I go into the hole command here, I want to click the hole command, and it's going to ask me how I want to do this. Okay? We're not going to go from a sketch. We're going to go linear because we're going to select the face. And then it asks me two different reference edges. So the first one that it's already selected, let's select this edge here, and it's asking us from the center of this hole, what distance do we want to offset that? We are going to make this 1 inch. Then it automatically skips down to the second reference, so this second reference edge should be highlighted for you. We're going to select the bottom, and it wants us to know from this bottom edge the distance. We want to go 0.5. Now, this hole is not a counter bore. It's not a countersink. It's just a standard hole, so you should have this one selected. This is the diameter of the hole, and if we look back at our print, it wanted us to have a 1/4 inch in diameter. Okay, so when we go back here, we want to, this is not going to be a drilled hole, it's going to be a drill point. Why is it not letting me do this? No, this is not through all, it's a distance. Okay, and our distance is going to be, what is it? Distance is, the depth is 0.875. So 0.875. And then our diameter here is 0.25. We want that to be flat and not angled at the edge. And we want it to be a simple hole, or a clearance hole, or a tapped hole, or a tapered hole. What we want to do to thread this. Hang on 1 second, it's thinking. The whole command can be tricky at times. So, okay, so here, this is what we wanted. We wanted a clearance hole because we want 20 UNC. These are, let's go back here, what does this say? 20 UNC, so ANSI unified threads. Don't worry about the fastener type. 1/4 inch. And then a normal fit. Why isn't it? Yeah, this is it. Okay, so we have our distance. We have our 20 UNC. This is ANSI unified threads. Okay, 1/4 inch normal fit. Apply. Okay. And then if we look at our hole, that did not thread it. So what we want to do with this then is we can easily just go thread this, and we want to thread it the full distance. So when I look at this hole, I can go to thread, and I don't know why this, okay, face, the thread face is right there. Then just click that, and it's the full length, apply. Now we have threads in there. Okay? Now, let's do this. Let's, instead of, actually, let's go, we'll do it the exact same way that we did before. So, we want to go back to hole command here. Hole, linear, select the face, reference edge, the back edge, 1 inch. Then it selects the second reference, the bottom edge, 0.5. And then the same thing, this needs to be 0.25. And then apply. And then we need to thread it, thread, face, inside of the hole, apply, okay. Now we have those two holes there. Now what we want to do is we want to put a plane that goes vertical through the middle of this part, and then we can just use this mirror command here to mirror these two holes onto the other side. So we want to go to plane, and we don't want to offset it. We want to parallel mid-plane between two planes, okay? The only reason we can use midplane is because this is 2 inches. The midplane will put it exactly 1 inch in the middle. So I select one side, then I select the other side. You got to make sure that you select the flat faces so it puts that plane directly in the center. Okay, a midplane between 2 parallel faces. Then I want to go to mirror, and I'm going to mirror this feature and that feature. Okay. Once I have my features selected, you'll see that they turn blue. Then we want to select mirror plane, mirror plane, in the corner of this plane, and then if you rotate over, you'll see 2 green holes where it's going to put it, or 2 green circles. That's exactly where we want them. We're going to select OK. Let's get a little closer here. Did it take the threading with it as well? No, the one thing it did not do is thread it, so all we have to do is go back up here to thread, that face, apply, that face, apply, and then we're done. We have 4 holes that are threaded, and those are where the axle pegs are going to connect the wheels to the body of our train. Now, we have 3 more remaining holes, and these holes actually have to be perfect, because if you mess these holes up, a lot of problems that arise are when you try to connect a cow catcher, which is this guy. When you try to connect that to these holes, if the little shafts on the back of the cow catcher are not exactly the same as the holes on the front of your train body, you are going to run into problems. So what we want to do is we want to make 3 holes, these 3, and the easiest way to do this is to create one sketch and then sketch on here 3 different circles, and then we'll just go extrude all 3 of those at the same time. So what we want to do is, these are 1/8 of an inch in diameter, they're 1/8 of an inch in depth, and then this little times 3 means all 3 of them are identical. They just have different locations in terms of where they're at on the train. So let's go to the front. Let's create a sketch on this face. Okay, and let's go grab 3 little circles. Let's put 1. I hate it when those lines come up. So when those lines come up, it is trying to snap these 2 lines. So let's just put that there. You don't want to snap them to any lines. Make sure that they're kind of out there in the middle of nowhere so we can give them their diameters and their reference edges. So the reference edges are going to be 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, 0.125 from the bottom, and 0.375 from this side edge. So these are both going to be in the exact same spot. So let's start out with those 2. We're going to dimension this guy to here, dimension this to here at 0.125, this to here at 0.125, and this to here at 0.375, and the center to this outside edge at 0.375. Now, the next one, or the final one, is going to be 0.625, but it's going to be directly in the center. So we want this one to be, the distance from the bottom edge is 0.625, and we want it directly in the center. So from this outside edge, we want it at 1. Now the only thing we have to do is change the diameter. We can go here, 0.125. This is where we can use equals. this one equals this one equals this one equals this one. Okay, now they're blue, which means they're happy, they're ready to be extruded. We are going to finish sketch. We are going to extrude. Why can I not select these? Extrude. Okay. So select that one, and that one. We want to flip those around. We want to make sure that they're cutting out and not joining. Change this to 0.125. And we are done. There is one final thing to finish this train body up. Now, when you come back here, oh, all holes are drilled with point angles. That's fine. Just leave them the way that they are. It doesn't tell us what the angle of those points are, so we're just going to leave those holes the way that they were with flat tips. That's fine. Now, the last thing here is it shows this body here. Let me make this a little bit smaller so you can see it better. The last thing here says, note, round all edges with a radius of 0.1 except for drilled holes. So what we want to do is we want to go to fillet. All fillets. Notice, all rounds. We don't want to do all rounds. We want to, let me think about the easiest way to do this. When we select all rounds, it selects the holes, and we do not want it to select the holes, but I can't go and get rid of those. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go fillet. We're going to change this to 0.1, and then you have to go around and make sure you select every single line because it's the only way to do this without selecting the holes. Make sure you select in there, here, 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 here. Make sure you get that guy. This bottom edge. Bottom edge. Now let's make sure I'm missing this one right here. And then let's rotate this guy around to see what we got. And it looks like we have them all. Then go ahead and hit apply. And there we go. Fully filleted, looking aerodynamic. And what we want to do now is, I completely forgot to do this, but you guys need to do this from now on, and I will make sure that I do this from now on. To start every part is we want to go in here, save as. I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop. Train. You guys need to do this in your inside of your IED folder in your G drive. And double click, make sure we're on train engine. We want to be descriptive with our parts, so I'm going to go initials underscore train underscore body. Save. We're happy. I'm lucky that it's saved. I will make sure and remind you guys to save your parts before you start working. That was a very bad example. I apologize. And that is it. The train body is complete.